Hi folks, Jason here. In this tutorial we're just going to be exploring a function in Blender called grease paint, and we're going to be basically drawing over a model. Now, full disclosure, I've not played around with Blender for a very long time, so I'm having to kind of re-familiarize myself with Blender, being a kind of Maya, Photoshop, 3D Coat, Substance Painter guy. I'm not, I'm not entirely au fait with a lot of the functions. However, the function to do with sculpting and grease paint, I've been having to play around with this, and I just thought I'd share some of my findings. There are some other videos online that you'll be able to see playing around with this, but I thought I'd take you through it. So, Blender's free. Doesn't cost you 1 penny, which is mind-blowing considering that all the things that it can do. Don't take my word for it. Go and have a look online. Everything ranging from modeling, 2D, 3D animation, visual effects, the works. It's pretty amazing what it can do. Anyway, without further ado, let's get going. So once you've downloaded it, you'll open it up, and you'll be presented with a little splash screen like this. Now, we're going to be going into the sculpting function. So what you'll need to do is just click on that there. Just give it a second. And then we're presented with a ball. Now this is fairly straightforward at this point. We have some tools down here. I'd suggest perhaps if you're watching this video to maybe put it on pause and just have a bit of a play with some of these tools. They're all fairly self-explanatory, and if you hover over, you'll see it's got some descriptions on there. So you got things like draw sharp, and a bit like the ZBrush and things like Sculptress. If you hold down Control, you can actually do the reverse as well. So that's quite useful. So please do have a play around with some of these things. I'm not going to get into the resolution just yet. We'll come to that a little bit later. But yeah, it's got some. It's very similar to ZBrush, particularly with things like this tool here. Now, if you're not familiar with the navigation, by the way, it's the middle mouse that you use to navigate around. You don't have to hold down Alt or anything like that. Just middle mouse and hold around. If you want to move the object from side to side, hold down Shift with the middle mouse, move from side to side. Zooming in is just using the middle mouse. Now, and scrolling back and forth. If you are going to be using the Wacom Pen, I would strongly advise that you recalibrate it. So in order to do that, I'll just show you now. If I just type in Wacom, and I'll just bring up the properties. If it's not listed on there, now I by right should have it on there, but if it isn't, just press on plus and then go and select it. So you'll click on plus and you'll be able to sort of select it there, yeah? With the pen function, because you're working on the middle mouse, you want to make the front button the middle click. You can leave the rest as is, the right click, but you want to make sure that that's on the middle click. Now the cool thing is, if I just switch to my Wacom Pen now, so that's all working fine. I'm using the button, the mouse button there. If I then press down Control with that button and just go back and forth, actually just hover the pen over the Wacom tablet, it'll actually zoom in. And of course you can use Shift as well to move back and forth. So that's pretty cool. And of course you can just rotate, let go and just rotate. So that gives you a lot of control. It means then you don't have to kind of play around with too many buttons apart from the keyboards. And once you kind of get used to it, it's fairly self-explanatory. But anyway, if you want to kind of use the mouse just to kind of get the basic shape in, you can do that anyway. In fact, what we'll do is we'll just go new. And then what we're going to do is we're going to give it some shape. So again, this is where you need to have a bit of a play around, but I'm just going to use the mouse for the time being. If you right click with the mouse, you can get there things like the radius and also the strength. So that's worth having to play around with. And then essentially what you want to be doing is let's go and say use the grab tool, and then we can start actually giving our ball of clay some shape. Now if it gets a little bit too lumpy along the way, what you can do is with the tool you can hold down shift and just with the left button mouse just smooth it out. So it's a very good way of just kind of controlling like so. And then you can look at the side view. So again, if you want to kind of get it a bit more clean, you can use the top navigation there just to give a bit more control with the face, like so. And then you could hold down shift, and because we've got the mirror function on, it's on there automatically anyway. It saves you having to kind of do the other side. So this way, you get a nice kind of good idea of the shape. And again, if you want to do things like you know, the neck and stuff like that, well, we could probably take care of that in the perspective view. But certainly, if you want to kind of come around and look at some of these other, like the back of the head, for example, you can have a play around with that as well. And then we can look on the side here as well. So this should be pretty much the same as the other side. And then using the middle mouse, you can see now it's going to rotate around. It's starting to take shape. I would suggest you stay on the move or the grab tool just for the time being, just so you can kind of keep the general get the general shape in. And again, just using the shift key just to get that overall shape. Okay, and now after that, after you've kind of got that general kind of shape, if you wanted to, you can switch to your Wacom Pen if you like, and this is where you might want to say use the clay strips, which is a bit like on ZBrush, and really just start building up the features. And it's entirely up to you where you start with this. It could be, you know, you want to start with the nose, but basically you want to start just really building up. Now, at the moment, what's going on at the moment is it's kind of looking a bit like, and also it's quite pixelated, but we'll take care of that shortly. But again, just whilst we're working, you know, it's a bit like when you're working in 2D. You want to keep it all fairly low resolution because, you know, like in Photoshop, it can sort of struggle a little bit. You know, when you're putting in the sort of fine rendering, that's when you want to put the detail in. So what I'm doing here is just getting the basic shape in with the face. And again, I'm not really working from any reference here. I'm just going to sort of do it pretty much sort of freestyle and generally sort of build up the nose. So again, it's quite useful for that. And again, if you want to use the control key, you can actually make it go in reverse as well, which is pretty cool. Something like that. And then I might just use the grab tool now and just try and bring that in a little bit there. So just basically create some sockets, just so you kind of got this recess there. Now, to sort of smooth it out, and again, just be mindful about the strength of it. And if you hold down Shift, you can actually just start giving this a bit of a smooth. So it basically just starts making it look a little bit more human. And again, we'll just do the nose there. And we can just see under that. But you know, it's like you just keep kind of going back and forth with it, like so. And then when you've kind of got the general shape, you might want to then increase the sort of the subdivisions. Now, one of the things I would suggest you use is, if I can just find it now, this thing called Dyn Topo. You click on that, click on that little arrow there, and what you want to do is you want to change it from relative detail to constant detail. And then we want to change this up. Now, this is entirely up to you, depending on what your machine's like. I'm going to take this up probably to around about 30. You can go a lot higher, but this machine that I've got isn't so great. And then what we can do is, I'll just show you now, if I just go back to the strips. You can actually start putting some finer detail in there. I'll just hold down. Shift. And then what I might do is I might start using like draw sharp and just start doing things like putting nostrils in there, like so. And again, I can hold down shift and just, so just keep working into it, going back and forth. Now I might just increase that resolution just a little bit more, maybe take it up to around about 50. And I might just use the, if I can find it, just try and just take some of that out, some of those kind of harsh details. I don't get too hung up on this, but just want to think about just building this up now. So I'm just going to build the nose up. So I'm just using this top tool here. And again, if you want to use it in reverse, just Control, and then you can kind of give a bit of definition there. And build that nose up. Again, if you want to smooth it out, you can do that, like so. And then just keep working. Again, just put in some of the things like the eyes. And again, don't be too worried about putting too much detail in for the time being. Just really just trying to kind of keep it fairly kind of low key until you can start putting in some refined details. Just kind of keep it all in a fairly rough sort of state. Just build up these eyes. like the mouth in there, bottom lip, and then just build that chin up a little bit. Again, you can take a lot more time on this, when you're doing it. But, as long as I kind of just show you the rudimentaries, then you can sort of take it from there and put all the amount of work in that you want. So yeah, so just building this up and just kind of going back and forth. And again, if you want to kind of increase the resolution, you can do. The purpose of this really is just to kind of introduce you to it. There's a lot to explore in Blender, but it's probably worthwhile just sort of doing this in chunks, really. Just simply because it's it's an amazing bit of kit, but it's also quite involved. Okay, so that's starting to take shape. You might want to kind of add some other little features on here, so I'm just going to go back to the mouse now. Things like a neck you might want to put on there, if you so wish, and some shoulders, but I think the purposes of this tutorial, it's not entirely necessary. There's things like ears that you might want to put in there, so if I go to the side here, so again, you might want to get some reference. I'm just going to do this on the fly. If I say take something like that, again, this is where you'll probably just have to use your judgment, but yeah, I would suggest you get some reference. I'm just going to build that up. Something like that. And you can use the grab tool just to bring this out. And of course, the beauty of it being on symmetry is it will do the other side, so it saves you a lot of hassle. So it's going to bring these ears out like so. And then just try and add a bit of definition. So I'm just smoothing this off, kind of cutting into it and then smoothing it off. Let's use this tool here. Okay, something like that. And as I mentioned, you might want to get some reference, but I'm just going to kind of wing it. Get into the approximate shape of an ear. Something like that. All right. Again, you can work into this as much as you like, but I think we'll sort of go with that. Right. So I'm going to stop the video there. So in the next video, folks, I'm just going to do a little bit of tweaking in the meantime. In the next one, I'm just going to introduce you to looking at some of the lighting and also bringing in the grease pencil. So that's pretty much it for now. So thanks for watching, and yeah, look forward to seeing you in the next video. Okay, Thanks a lot, folks. Bye for now. Hi folks, and welcome back to the second part of these tutorials. So you'll remember from the last tutorial we were basically getting the basic sculpt in. That's what I was doing here. And essentially what I was doing is just putting some additional details in, as I mentioned before. So I've just put some like creases in here. I've done some work on the nose. Just zoom in there a little bit. And you know, a little dimple in the chin, and just basically played around with the tools that we were playing around with in the last video, and using the clay strips and things like that, and just worked on the ears. But essentially that's it. Now of course you can work into it a little bit more, that's perfectly fine. What we're going to be exploring in this video is we're going to be looking at using the grease pencil tool, and we'll also have a little play around with the lighting as well. So how do we get started? So first of all, we'll need to come out of sculpt mode, and we'll need to go into object mode. Once you do that, it'll then bring up a different set of boxes here, and what we need to do is need to go to where it says add, and then we need to go to grease pencil and then blank. Okay, so that sets the scene there. Next, what we do is we then go to the draw mode. Before we start drawing though, we're going to need to just do a few things. First of all, where it says origin, we'll just need to click on where it says surface. And we can play around with this, but generally speaking, you know, we'll probably put it at something like, say, 0.30. But again, you can play around with this as you wish. It's set on pencil. Now here, you can change that if you like. Maybe turn it into something like, say, an ink pen, just get a bit more of a definite edge on it. And we're going to create a material. So if we go all the way down to the bottom here, where you've got this little kind of beach ball looking symbol there, I'm going to click on that, and then basically click on where it says new. And you've got some base colors in there. Now you can actually put some materials in there, but we're not going to play around with that for now. But we've got a basic color there. And essentially you can just start drawing away. Now it's going to have a look here, and you can see if I just zoom in, just move over to the side here, you see it's just hovering over the edge there. That's all right. This is where, if you go back to the surface, this is where you can kind of maybe play around and reduce the number on that, you know, so maybe like take that down to something like that. Let's have a look and see what that does. You see there it's a little bit closer. So again, just have a bit of a play around. Okay, so tools that you really just need to be concerned about in this tutorial is we've got the pencil tool, obviously, eraser tool, so that's good for just sort of taking that away like so. Don't need to worry about any of these. It's just really the drawing for now. If you go right click on your Wacom pen, you'll see there, well, sorry, let's go back to pencil. If you go right click, you can see there we've got radius, so you can increase the size of the brush if you so wish. You can see that it's painting over the nose. And also, if we go right click again, we've got strength. So if I take that all the way down and say take that down a little bit as well. Let's say just do the eyebrows. It's probably a little bit too weak. Let's take that up a little bit. There we go. You can kind of see that. So you can actually build up as well. So if you wanted to just sort of sketch initially and then draw over the top, you can do. So what I'm going to do here, and you can follow me along or just watch, is I'm just going to essentially draw over the model, and then I'm going to show you some cool stuff afterwards as well. So away we go. So we'll see how long this takes for us to do. So I'm probably just going to increase the strength of that a little bit, so we can kind of get like a bit more of a sort of definite. Now the cool thing about this is that depending on what your drawing skills are, making a model first can be a really good way of just getting to grips with getting a sense of proportion and just understanding proportion. But the cool thing, and this will come up later, is for a lot of us it's difficult. We can sort of draw faces, face on like that, but a lot of people find it difficult to kind of say draw a face like at an angle like that. The beauty of this is you can basically draw on top of the model, and like I say, this we'll show you a little bit later. You can actually then present it in a sort of 2D/3D form, and actually pick the angle and also render it as well, which is very, very cool. So it doesn't seem to have the finesse, say, of Photoshop. So it's one of the things where I would maybe take some of these renders when it's all kind of done, take these renders, render them out, and then put them into, say, Photoshop, and then continue to work into them. So say, for example, if you wanted to do like sort of like line art, you want to do it something like that, that's what you wanted your designs to be. Then of course what you could do is you could take what you're doing here, put it into render it, and then put it into Photoshop. Then you just sort of create a layer, and then sort of paint into it, like cell shading, something like that. So again, so what I'm doing here is I'm just sort of going over the strokes that I've been making in with the sculpt, and just drawing over the top, really, like you probably see in sort of cell shading, where they can have that nice effect. You got to look out for things like, because it's sticking to the surface, you got to make sure that you don't get this kind of sort of spray effect. If you kind of go over, if you go like that, say, you'll end up with, it won't kind of get the design effect that you want. So it's just something to look out for when you're doing your drawing. So I'll just take that out and just go over it again. There are a number of brushes as well, so you could explore those. There's even like an airbrush in there, but yeah, I'd be wary about using that. Perhaps think about using like a low opacity on that. Just so you can see what you're doing. When you're doing the drawing as well, try not to overdraw. So I'm putting like some sketches in here, but don't perhaps go too overboard with the sketches. You don't want to kind of create too much noise. Now, as far as I'm aware, I haven't, like I say, I was saying in the last video, it's been a while since I've played around with Blender, and it is that saying, if you don't use it, you lose it. There's a lot I've forgotten, particularly, we're going back years now. So there's a lot of stuff that has just simply gone out the window. But I am aiming to kind of do a bit more in this and more in the future, because I think Blender's already a fantastic program. I mean, when you look at some of the things that it can do, and I think that's going to be set to continue, whether it's doing modeling, sculpting, animation, and also visual effects. It's I think it's probably going to start playing more and more of a role as we go into the future. I think people do use it in industry, but the standard seems to be Photoshop. Well, Photoshop obviously, yeah, but Maya as well. But I think that might change. All right, so we've got most of the kind of the head in there, and I'm just going to just zoom out a little bit. Just do that bit under the neck. Again, I'm doing this very, very quickly, but as I always say, you know, you can sort of take your time with this. You don't have to rush. Again, I'm just putting a suggestion of kind of lines there, just simply because, you know, it's very difficult to kind of, you can't really sort of draw around that because it's just a sort of dome shape. So I can just sort of put some little lines in there, and a bit of his kind of neck bone there and stuff like that, and maybe just draw around that like so. So we've got part of the at least part of the drawing done there for now, and it's a very, very cool tool, you know, in terms of like learning about facial anatomy and, you know, what you can do with that. I think it's really indispensable. And of course, it's not relegated to faces. You could do really anything, any kind of sculpt of any object. If you want to kind of do a sketch or just block something out very, very basically, you can sort of do that. Now here's the cool part. So we've got our sketches done, and of course we've got we've got the drawing, and we've got the model, and it's all great. But what if you just want the drawing? Well, all we have to do is, if you look at the top here in this layering system, turn off where it says quad sphere, and hey presto, you've now got a 3D drawing. Now it's a little bit confusing when you look at it, because particularly if you want to kind of get something from an angle, because you see in the other side, but there is a workaround for that. So click on this little arrow here and go to view. You can see there it says end. If you just click and drag that along, or perhaps let's key a number and let's put in something like, say, where are we? Say 100. Let's take it down to that, and then we'll just steadily take it down and down and down. Whoa! So say to around about there. You can see now it cuts out the background, which then sort of presents it as more of a, you know, the details that you just sort of want to see. And again, this takes a bit of tweaking. You know, you might want to have a think about that and what you do there. In terms of rendering, now if you wanted to render, say, if I just turn the quad sphere back on, and I'll just take that back up as well to say around about there. To render it out, you can just simply render this way, render image. It'll render out the model and the drawing together. If you wanted to, say, just render out the drawing, what you could do is just simply, I mean, you could just, to be honest, you could just sort of delete it. So just go delete that. You can always bring it back. Let's just take some of that out there, and then go back to render, and it'll just render out. Well, it renders that out, but you'd have to kind of have a bit of a play around again with the view. But I would say probably the best thing to do, at least at this stage when you kind of get into grips with it, is to pick pick a sort of side, whether it's like a side view, whatever. Have a play around with the with this, and then just do a screen grab. Because it's a blank background, you could just do a screen grab and then just put that into Photoshop and then work into it. So if you want to kind of pick a particular angle, indeed, if you wanted to, it's not entirely necessary to take the model out, because if, say, for example, you were going to put it into Photoshop and you wanted to work on it, this is fairly light. So what effectively you could do, you could just sort of paint behind it anyway. It's entirely up to you. Now, one last thing before we finish the tutorial is I just wanted to show you the lighting. Now I'm going to go into the object mode now, and I wanted to just zoom out a little bit. I'll just bring that out a little bit as well, just so we can see the entire model. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the shading mode here. So now actually it's being lit by the light, as you can see there. And then what we're going to do is going to click on that, hit G, and then we can just basically play around with the lighting like so. So maybe put one there. And let's just zoom in a little bit. So this is very good for things like, if you want to kind of get to grips with lighting and things like that. You can also duplicate. So I can press Control and C, Control and V. And then using that, if I hit G now, I can then sort of maybe bring a light up there, say. Something like that. Go and select the other light, hit G, and maybe just play around with that. So maybe you can have some like up lighting or bring it close to the subject. It's entirely up to you, or take it far away. But let's say I do something like that, have it lit from under, and maybe with this one I'm going to hit G now, maybe just take that away a little bit. Let's try that again. There we go. Just so you've got a bit of fill in the lights there. And you can see it's already a lot more interesting. You kind of got this very kind of interesting looking character. We've got the drawing, the sort of drawing on top. And then of course you can render this out as well, doing the same thing. So we go through to render there, render image. Let's give it a second. There we are. Right. Oh, let's have a look. Let's click on the camera. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so you can see it's getting it from the camera. So you can actually move the camera around as well. So if you have a look on there, you can do things like rotate. You want. Let's just try another render of that. There we go. But anyway, that's that. In terms of doing other drawings, so let's go back. I'm just going to go back into doing a little bit more drawing. We can go back into, if I just go to Add, Grease Pencil, Blank, and just go back into the draw mode, and I'll just create another material there. You can also draw on top, and you can draw on different layers. So I'll just zoom in a second just to sort of show you. So we've got our little character here, and if I just shift this over to the side, right, so I've just had to create another material there, and if we go to the surface, you can see there it's kind of stuck on like that default 150. We can see there. Now if you wanted to, let's say you wanted to kind of create some additional drawings on top, let's say like a visor, something like that, that'd be pretty cool. So what we can do is can choose a different color, so maybe even something like a gray, just keep it like really simple for now. And the offset, we can maybe increase that a little bit. Let's just see what that does. See that it's just hovering above. Let's increase that a little bit more. You can see that it's just above the character there. So for example, if you wanted to kind of do something like a visor or do some kind of stuff around the face, you could do that as well. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to just take that away go back to the brush, and I might just take the strength down on that a little bit. And then, say for example, you could start, I might just increase the size of that brush a little bit. Maybe like do like some kind of visor, right? So if you want to kind of do some like, you know, sci-fi or even like, you know, fantasy type style sort of sketch, you could do that. I'll just sort of sketch over the top there. Pretty cool, huh? And then you could sort of, you know, do things like, for example, I don't know, let's create another, I'm going to create another material and maybe make this a bit lighter. Increase the strength on that. Something like that, say. And again, you could use these tools if you want to kind of be a bit more sort of precise. And start doing things like put like a little kind of visor, like a visor, but you know, with like a little kind of helmet type thing, whatever. You can see it kind of working there, which is pretty cool. And then you can sort of do the same on the other side. Just ways of kind of getting, you know, getting ideas for concepts, things like that. I think it can be really useful, you know. So again, if you want to sort of take the strength of that down, you can take that down. Like so. And so, you know, it's really cool. You know, you've got like the beginnings of like a sort of 3D drawing, you know, which is, you know, it's really exciting, you know, because you can do, you know, sort of sketches in real time in 3D. I mean, drawing in 3D, that's pretty mad, really. Let's draw with that. Increase that brush size a little bit. Something like that. Pretty cool, huh? Let's do a bit on the other side as well. And then just do what I did before. You know, and all of a sudden, you know, you've got something, you know, you can kind of, something cool you can kind of play around with, and I don't know, just get some ideas, really. But that's pretty much it, folks, really. You know, experiment. That's the best advice that I could give you with stuff like this, is just experiment with looking at, you know, playing around with the drawing and just seeing what you can achieve with what you've got, and you know, have some fun with it. You know, there's a lot to explore here, and you know, hopefully it'll give you some ideas. Hopefully this tutorial will give you some ideas as well. And you know, we really look forward to seeing what you produce. But that's pretty much it, folks. So, you know, thanks for your time. Thanks for watching. If you've got any questions, of course, you know, be sure to let me know. If I end up putting this on YouTube, be sure to give me a like, comment, subscribe, and in the meantime, you know, wish you luck with your projects and look forward to seeing what you produce. So, so yeah, so that's it, folks. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.